I'm happy to introduce our virtual artist in residency, Roberta Orlando from Italy. And she was also one of the first artists who joined the virtual residency. And it was really great for us to have someone from such a crucial and important region for the whole global crisis as Italy. But for us, of course, it was not that interesting to learn about what's happening there, but we were more interested in how artists and in particular Roberta perceived all those events and tried to work with this experience in their art. For those who are joining us for the first time, I will say a couple of words about our project. My name is Anastasia Patse. I'm the head of the St. Petersburg Art Residency, and we have been functioning online since April, and we've initiated this virtual residency for artists worldwide to have an accessible digital residency experience while we can't welcome them in St. Petersburg physically. And to get to know our participants personally and see their faces, hear their voices, we have this special Saturday interview series. So yes, thank you again for joining. Yes, I see that a lot of our artists from the residency are online. So the rules are, as always, it's an informal talk. If you have any questions, there is this field here where you can type, and we will get to that. So now, Roberta, the floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about how did you discover the virtual residency and why did you decide to join this project?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Roberta, and thank you very much, Anastasia, for introducing me and also for introducing SPAR. So I discovered SPAR a few years ago. Was really interested about the projects of the studio and also the artistic and the art scene in Russia in general. So I found some projects really interesting, and then I found out about the virtual studio, because firstly I applied for the physical residency, and when I discovered your initiative about the virtual studio, I found it great, because it's also very challenging to collaborate with different artists from all over the world and try to basically start up this virtual system for the art residencies. And so I was very happy to try it by myself, and I tried also to collect different works during the lockdown here in Italy.
Well, I have a general question that I ask all of our participants. The whole COVID-19 pandemic, the starting point of this project, how did the new situation, the new normal, and this very unfamiliar and very limiting context influence your work? Did it influence your work at all? And if yes, how?
Yes, definitely. Well, from the very beginning, let's start that here. For example, in Milan, where I'm based right now, the lockdown started in March, at the very beginning of March. So I've been stuck, obviously, and the only point of contact with the external world, let's say, was my partner, and living with a person that's work in the medical system and hospitals, it has been very challenging and not easy at all. But at the same time, I realized much more what was happening rather than following the news on internet or the television, for example. So I tried to find a kind of contact with the external world, with myself, with my partner, but in different ways, and try to translate them all through art. Because finally I found a lot of time for dedicating myself to the artistic work, and was very happy about it. But at the same time, it was sad that a pandemic was sort of necessary for allowing me to find such a big time to dedicate myself to the arts.
In one of your first contributions to the virtual studio, we read about your private situation with your partner working at the hospital, and I should say that it was pretty early in the crisis, so to say, and it was my first experience of knowing someone who is inside of this whole situation, because I think for me, like for a lot of people back then, this pandemic seemed like something that's happening to others, something that is only affecting our life indirectly. So you wrote about how you organized your daily life with considering the fact that you had to be alone but together at the same time.
Yes.
How did you manage that on a practical and on an emotional basis?
In practice, we just split the apartment in two. So that was the easy part, let's say. And emotionally, of course, it was tough, honestly. But I found some very good feelings trying to work on and to think about different works of art that I wanted to create, and try to express how I was feeling emotionally at that time. So that's why I tried to split and divide the different works about art. That's why also, if you can see on the SPAR Virtual Studio website, if you look at my works, every single work starts with art can. So it's also like a message of hope about art and how it can help to pass through these kind of situations. And for me, it was like a saving point, let's say, or something that was a kind of relief.
One of the first works that you've posted online, and I will show it right now for those who haven't seen it on virtual residency yet, was this. I'm showing it right now, so you can't see that, but it's on the screen. It was this series of this triptych of 3 pieces that looks like a painting. This was my first impression. Very beautiful, silent monochrome palette. So you took photographs of the bed, and can you tell us a little bit about that? While you're talking, we have the image on the screen.
Yes, basically, I started to take photos of the bed, and specifically about the parts of the bed of my partner, and how I was feeling at that time. And so basically, I tried to represent the absence, absolutely, and also the absence that was always there every day and night, because of the shifts, because of the job, and the work was extremely hard, specifically in March. And I also remembered some artworks from the 80s, when there was the arts, and how the artists tried to express some feelings about that situation. And so I remembered works with beds, and how the absence of the loved ones was felt just seeing empty beds. So I tried to reconnect that feeling to the 80s, but talking about the present.
It is a very hard and challenging task how to depict visually this absence. But we also saw other media from your professional practice online. There were a lot of things were photographs. Then we also saw poetry, there is a film, and there was even a sound project. Would you like to talk
Yes.
about any of those?
Yes, well, I define myself as an interdisciplinary artist because I really like to experiment and try different shapes and forms of art. So I started from photography, as you mentioned, and then I switched to film and video. And I also tried to write down some thoughts and write. I wrote a small very small and short poetry, and also a sound project that I took part into, and it was based in US. And I also invited other artists to take part in a few projects that are calling artists worldwide, specifically in this time. And then I switched again to photography, remembering my last trip before being stuck in Milan, and I was in Venice. It was after the flood, and then I thought also about that city after the flood and then the pandemic. So it's quite hard to think about. Honestly,
give me a second. I will just put up the images that you're mentioning.
Yes.
From Venice, and I can imagine it is, you know, it's such a coincidence. I mean, those images they speak closely with what is happening right now, and it's a kind of an interesting backlash. So
yes, thanks. And finally, I went out. I was allowed to walk around, but not just for buying primary stuff or food. So I went to the park, and of course, if I saw flowers, it was a completely different feeling than before. So I remember also the baskets that you really like that in Italy, because we had this idea to share food and other necessary materials with other people. So also sharing these baskets just down to the balconies. It was really, really nice and powerful. And Italians are good on that, honestly, when we have to think about others. And so, yes, this is just a very short wrap up of all everything that I did during this spiritual residency. And I post all the works from like each 2-3 days and so on per week. So yes, I tried also to give a sort of constancy in what I was creating at that time.
Thank you. I really like the idea of a basket. And how did you feel the community situation changing during the last several months? I mean, we had different artists talking about how they experienced this period in their communities. We recently just talked with Cynthia from Barcelona, who got a chance to get to know her neighbors while being outside on her terrace. Did you feel any changes happening? Did you feel anything new happening with your neighbors, with your friends? How did this affect your circle?
Well, personally, I was sort of split in two because I always worked and studied abroad. So many of my friends were stuck in all over the world, basically, from New Zealand to US or Norway or wherever. So I spent a lot of time at the phone or also, of course, on Zoom or any kinds of social network for video calls. And On the other hand, I spent also time talking with the closest people or persons well in the building or just walking by when it was allowed, and there was a sort of surreal scenario because I wanted to express as much kindness as possible. Usually, I'm a very kind person, but specifically in this situation, I wanted to listen more what the people needs were at that time and for the people that were closest to me. So yes, I was just stepping in these two feelings.
Thank you. We already have a couple of questions. I would just wanted to finish first. For example, Nazar from the Residency is asking whether you visited any museums. So Nazar, I think you mean what you mean is whether Roberta visited any museums after the restrictions were withdrawn. So how is the situation in general in your place right now? And you're slowly getting back to a familiar kind of life. Did you go to museums, and what was the first thing you did after being able to go outside and do things?
Okay, so first of all, I tried to visit some museum online when there was the lockdown, but then I waited for museums to open again, and this is still tricky right now in Italy because each region or city is moving a little bit in different ways. And so I'm still waiting for visiting a museum right now. But as soon as I can, I really would like to go back to Venice again because then I will have another picture in my head. So before the lockdown and after, and I hope that more people will be there. And the first thing that I did just after the lockdown, it was just walking to the park, honestly, and riding the bicycle. That's it. Just very simple and easy things that before, I mean, they were very special to me even before, but they were also after the lockdown, honestly.
Thank
it's a
you.
new perspective.
Yes, yes. I think it's great how we learn to value all those things we didn't actually pay attention or took for granted before. So it is definitely something that we will take out of this time. Eliana Velozzo is writing in many places, doesn't matter what the humans are feeling, the springs anyway. The spring, yeah, the spring is very independent from anything. There is actually already this statement that nature has been doing great without us, and many birds and animals return to cities. So I think this break was also a very good thing for our environment. Another question from Eliane: do you think life is ever going to be the same? Do you?
Well, honestly, it depends by each one of us. Because in one hand, I can think that nothing will be the same again, and at the same time, some of us can try to rethink and reproduce what we did before. So I think this is a very strong and powerful opportunity for every one of us to change as single person, as community, and also as humanity. Because if we arrived at this point, I think that we need to change. We need to change in so many different ways, but not for the worst, but for the good. So I think we had the time to think about, to reflect. So now is the time to act, I think, and we have the time to act. Let's see how much. We don't need to wait another pandemic or that the situation gets worse. Just act and try to help each other, take care of each other, and also of everything that we have around. It's such a simple concept, but it's so hard to put in practice. It's incredible, but I think that we can change many things in a very good way. It's an opportunity, and no one of us should miss it.
I agree with every word you said. I also feel the same, and I think that a lot of people share this position. We have definitely a lot to think about. Going back to the works that you created during the lockdown, there was also this film that you published online. It's also available on our webpage. Could you talk a little bit about that? So we kind of saw the film coming through the images and the comments that you've posted, and already had some ideas of what's going to be produced, but could you talk a little bit about that? And I will, while you were talking, I will show some stills.
Yes, perfect. Well, I was living basically the major of time alone, and my partner was always at work, and I thought about again the empty bed and try to put it from photograph to video. And so again, I wanted to express the absence, and at that time in March, I heard so many ambulances. They were really, it was incredible. And I wanted also to record some of these sounds, connecting that to the absence of my partner. So I simply put the camera on, and I recorded just the first shot, and it was very simple and very honest, and it was like that, honestly. And it was intimate, of course. And firstly, I thought about just a simple channel, just one channel on a screen. But then I wanted to think about it as more interesting and immersive work for the people that can watch it and discover it on during an exhibition, for example, or inside a room. So I thought, what if I can play the video on different monitors and also having more speakers and playing also the ambulances, so that the people can a little bit feel in a stronger way what I felt, probably. So I'm still working on that, because I want to propose it for a very nice exhibition, and it's not easy also at the moment, as we all know, in the art world. But it's something that definitely I will do.
I wish you all the best of luck for that, and I can imagine, yes, fingers crossed, I can imagine that this work will give a much more intensive experience when exhibited, beamed on multiple screens, you know, with this surrounding sound of emptiness also. So yeah, really looking forward to hearing about the exhibition. We have a couple of, just to tell you what's going on here, there are a lot of hearts flying around our screen. So yes, thank you everyone for your feedback. Then a couple of other questions. Comparing with Germany, did the Italian government support cultural industries? I think just for those who are not familiar with those details, I will allow myself a comment. And yes, Germany was one of the leaders in supporting the cultural sector, both institutions and individual artists, offering them grants for, well, I think the average was about 5,000 euros to also support small art businesses. And that was really something that the professional community talked a lot about. And I think even the German art professionals were surprised by such a great and pretty generous support. Could you tell us a little bit about whether there were any similar measures in Italy, and how in general did the cultural sector survive and go through the crisis?
I think that the cultural sector is one of the most affected in this country, and it's such a pity because I think that Italy is one of the first worldwide countries for the arts. I mean, we have such an heritage which is everywhere from the north to the south, but somehow we have to learn a lot and try to learn also from other countries how to promote it and how to support it, and also we have to learn how to support all the people that work every day in the cultural sector, from the arts to the music to the dance and theater and so on. So at this time, it's very hard to say because there are small initiatives, but it's very hard to have a common voice. We here in Italy we saw a lot of support from common people and famous people and people working in the arts in general, trying to call the leaders to support the art and creative fields. But I think that we have to wait. Some museums are reopening very slowly, week by week, and we just entered in the third phase, so we are allowed to move from one region to the other, but we are going very slowly, and I think that the cultural sector is very affected by this situation, and I really hope that the attention can be higher in the coming weeks and months, because we also have a lot of tourism, for example. We always did, and now of course is more difficult. So I really hope that the voice of all the artists will be really heard from the leaders, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you for your position on that. Just a little update on what's happening in the comments. Yes, people are writing that you are doing strong works, which I definitely agree on, and I think many of our viewers do. There is a question from another SPAR artist, Marielle van den Berg from the Netherlands. Do you think after the corona time this might take a long time? People still want to see art that is about corona. It's not a crucial. Okay, I just to sum up the question.
Yes.
And Mariella, please correct me if I'm wrong. We are expecting a lot of corona-related art. We are talking about that a lot. We are working on that theme a lot. Everyone in their own media and fields, because it's definitely something that can't be ignored. But probably the question is, how long will it take, in your opinion, after the end of a crisis, that we will be still talking about that, artists will still be working with that theme? And yes, Mariella asks, won't people be fed up with this theme? I agree. I'm actually, I'm happy to join this question, because I think that there will be a lot of corona-related projects, and maybe too much. How do you feel about that?
Yes, definitely. I think that too. That we will talk about this situation for a very long time, and we will see many works about that. But I think it's also interesting to see how the people and artists in general will talk about it. So probably, I really hope that many works will not talk about this situation in a very similar way, but try to find different ways and art expressions for thinking about the future and also probably most of all the present. So and still today, if I think about it, we talk a lot about past things or things happened in the past. So everything would be recalled again and again. So I hope that even if we will talk a lot about the COVID-19 and so on, we will change a little bit the approach and how we can learn and try to see things in a different way and change position. So I think that could be more interesting.
Thank you, and also thank you for your questions. We are coming to the end of the interview, so if there is still something that you wanted to ask about, you can do it right now. Eliana is writing, I think that the problem is that we would need works about the social approaches, the social situation, more than the individual ones. Yes, Eliana, also thank you for your active involvement and for sharing your thoughts. That is great. We definitely are trying to survive. Yes, I agree. We will also have, after the interview, we will also have a form in our stories where you can send questions to Roberta if you come up with something you forgot to ask about. So you'll be able to do this during the next 24 hours, and we will pass it to Roberta directly. For those who joined a little bit later, this was an interview with our virtual artist in residency, Roberta Orlando from Italy. The interview will be also available online at the webpage of our virtual residency, which you can find in the link in our bio, in our Instagram account. And we're having those live interviews every Saturday. So keep updated, keep yourself updated on the announcements in our profile, and thank you all for joining. I would also like to use this opportunity to thank everyone who donated to support the virtual residency. These contributions mean a lot to us and allow us to do some improvements. Like maybe today you've noticed that we've been using some new software for the stream, and we were able to show images, and we are trying to improve our digital products. It is all new for us, but thanks to you, we can open up this, I would like to say, box of Pandora, but box of opportunities. So if you like what we're doing, please visit the website. The link is in the profile. Consider supporting the program and share the news. So thank you, everyone. Yes, so Roberta, I'm forwarding you smileys and flowers and hearts. Yeah, and thanks a lot, everyone. And thank you, Roberta. We'll stay in touch, and it was great to have you here today. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Thank you very much.